Well, I wasn't expecting to have another video, but here we are. This is a Logitech Wireless Keyboard and Mouse set. Um, only looking at the keyboard right now. Cordless Desktop EX110. I started using it and found that this key didn't work. Figured I'd open it up and see if there's some corrosion I could clean off and make it work. And inside it was far more interesting than I was expecting. So let's take a look at it together. I've already taken the screws out. As usual, you just need to get your finger under the edge and peel up in a few spots, and things come apart. So take the keys off, and underneath we have this little board here. This whole thing takes 2 AAAs. Positive battery wires here. This appears to be a loop antenna. This is a pretty typical keyboard matrix. This is a test. Caps lock, A, S, D, F, so on and so forth. Rubber domes. These rubber domes have a shape on them such that they can kind of snap open and closed, and a little bump on the bottom that hits the matrix underneath. Peel up the antenna, peel out the rubber dome matrix. Next, we have 3 layers of plastic. The top and bottom layer each have traces on them of the keyboard matrix, and then the middle layer has no traces, is just holes, but the holes line up with the pads here. So the way this works is when one of those points that's on the underside of the rubber dome hits it, the pressure causes the top layer here to flex through, and this pad touches the pad underneath it, making a contact, closing the switch, and registering the keystroke. On top, up here at the top is the circuit board, and there's this bracket on it here that had 3 screws holding it down. The reason for this will be obvious shortly, in that if we open that up, we find this is where the keyboard matrix is. Now this 4 layers, 3 layers of plastic, but this top layer has traces on both sides. The top side is just a grid connected to this ground pin right here. The bottom side has these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pins on it that are connected through, and they contact these pads underneath, and the rest of these pads over here are all for the bottom side of the keyboard matrix. And the circuit board, if we flip it over, has these cute little carbon coated pads which have some resistance but are also very resistant to corrosion and such. So that is a reasonable way of connecting that. That's very cheap. And the bracket here was on the back of that in order to apply pressure to the pads through the board to make sure that this contacted. Furthermore, if we lift this up, there's actually a rubber strip right here, not glued in or anything. You can sort of see the cross section of that, and that laid down into this slot here to provide back pressure. So that's just a spring that pushed on the back side to shove all these contacts against the circuit board. And then the circuit board, again, more interesting than I was expecting. First of all, you look at it, you see the brown, and it certainly looks like FR2. Most common circuit board you see is FR4, fire retardant version number 4, which is the same as Garolite G10 fiberglass composite. FR2 is a paper and I forget, paper and something composite, basically Bakelite, I think. So the paper Bakelite composite is a lot cheaper. It is not usable for plated through-hole circuitry, but if you can make your board fit on one side, FR2 can be pretty good, and it's very cheap. We'll need to fix that later. I guess I'll tell you what I see manually. There's a magnifier. I'll at least use this as a light, though. So that chip is a Freescale MC54 MC543090. MC54 3090. I think the MC54 are, I believe the MC54 series are cold-fire microcontrollers. Well, if you're wondering, the reason that this surprised me was because when I opened up the receiver, it had a custom Logitech chip in it. Oh well. Not what I was hoping to find. The other thing that's sort of interesting, though, is if you look at the board, well, can you see this? There are a number of places where there are these black tracks that seem to be used as jumpers, which is a way of making a layout work on 2 layers when you'd really much rather have 4 layers. What's even more interesting is that they bother with that rather than try and make a 4-layer board work. And this particular layout using these carbon pads as jumpers, I've only seen once before on a remote control circuit board for a TV that used those same carbon pads to connect to the key matrix that went over the top of the board. So I suppose this is vaguely related then. So this board has 2 crystals on it that are pretty close in frequency, but not the same. This one here is 13.547 megahertz, and this one is 13.572. So 25 kilohertz difference, apparently. In this area on the board is all analog circuitry, so they've got to be part of a pair of oscillators. I wonder if this thing is an analog implementation of a frequency shift keying transmitter. I wish I had a scope here to poke around on this stuff, but I don't yet. I do intend to fix that at some point, but it'll probably be at least a few weeks before I can get too much of my test equipment up and in place and working. But here's hoping a few of you find this interesting. I'll work on putting this antenna back where it was. I did already open up the key matrix, but I'll give it a little wipe one more time. was again the start key that was not working for me. So give that a little scrub, give that a little scrub. Alright, I wanted to pull this up and see what this part of this matrix is. So that's well, I think this keyboard's not long for this world, because there are definitely places where it's pretty well etched away, because none of these traces, of course, have any protective coating over them, so oxidation is a thing. It's possible these are silver traces, and silver, of course, has the advantage of silver oxide still being somewhat conductive, which is not true of, I believe, any of the other metal oxides. But it is still not fantastic, and yeah, so yeah, this keyboard is not long for this world at this point. I'll try and get a little bit of use out of it while I still can, but it's probably going to get put in the recycle pretty soon. But thanks for joining me on this little exploration here, and I'll see what else of interest I can maybe get ready for you next time. If this was interesting, as usual, comment with any questions or suggestions. Please subscribe, and if you liked it, hit the like button. Thanks. Talk to y'all later.